Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. A slightly different retro movie review today. It's a review of a film which isn't that old. It's about 6 years old. It's called Journeyman and stars Paddy Considine, who wrote and directed the film, and Jodie Whittaker, your actual recent Doctor Who. This came out in 2017, as I said, and it was I think it came out around the time Jodie Whittaker was announced as Doctor Who. And it's a film that I was interested in at the time. I remember reading reviews and seeing reviews, and I thought, it sounds quite interesting, if a bit bleak in places. Never got around to seeing it, and I picked it up in the recent HMV sale. I think it was about $6.99, something like that, because it was a title I did fancy seeing. And I know that Jim Jam from Jim Jam Movies and TVs put a little recommendation, a little comment to say it was a very underrated British film. I had a couple of free hours yesterday afternoon, so I retired to the cinema room. Normally I would go for something sort of science fiction or horror perhaps, or something comedy. But I came across this one in the pile and thought, I'll have a look at that. 94 minutes, it sort of fitted the time scale I had that was available. And I sat and watched it, and it is a very good film. It's very heart-wrenching in places, very emotional, very frustrating in many ways. The story, if you're not aware, is Paddy Considine, who I said wrote and directed the film. He plays Matty Burden. He's a championship boxer. He's won all sorts of awards, and he's getting on a little bit. He's getting older. I'm assuming he's sort of late 30s, or the character's supposed to be late 30s, early 40s maybe at the time. And he's got one more fight before he decides he's going to retire. And he's fighting a much younger man. At a press conference, this much younger man is very cocky and arrogant and sort of having a pop at Matty because of his age and making comments. His father's recently died, and he's got that cockiness of youth, I suppose. And a couple of times he says to him, when they're sort of face to face, in that sort of way you often see or used to see, certainly in press conferences with boxers were very sort of antagonistic towards one another. He says to him, this is going to be life-changing. This is going to be life-changing. And it is. The fight is brutal and tough and hard, as boxing matches often are. But Matty wins. And when he gets home, he's triumphant. His wife, Emma, played by Jodie Whittaker, is glad that he's back in one piece, because I think she senses that he's getting older and he's getting a bit more fragile and can't really take these sort of batteries much more. So she wants him to finish this bout and then give up. And all seems fairly well. He's bruised and battered and achy. She goes off to make him a cup of tea and suddenly gets these terrible pains in his head. She comes out of the kitchen, he's collapsed on the floor. We then cut to him in hospital, and then we then cut to him coming home. The film doesn't spend a lot of time with hospital stuff and diagnoses and all this sort of stuff and what's wrong, but clearly he suffered a brain injury. He comes home and let's just say he's not the man he was. He can't walk properly, he can't communicate, his speech is poor, his memory's terrible, his whole bodily reactions have completely slowed down. He's become a shell of the man he was. Emma does her best to look after him, but it's difficult because he's got to relearn all his skills, basic skills of walking and going upstairs, making a cup of tea. All these things are foreign to him, and he can't remember his friends. She has to constantly show him pictures of his late father and his own daughter, Mia. Emma does the best she can. Unfortunately, she finds herself abandoned. I think a lot of his friends and his former sparring partners and people he used to work with in the gym, they don't know how to deal with him now that he's become this different person. So she's left on her own. She has to cope. And she ultimately reaches breaking point. She can't take any more when something happens in the family dynamic that she can't tolerate. And she sort of leaves him. The plot is a little bit vague about what she actually does and what she's going to do. She leaves him and she goes away to think things through. We don't know where she is. But she's effectively, I'm not going to say abandoned, but she can't take any more because of the risks to herself and her daughter. Obviously, Matty doesn't understand this. He doesn't know what's happening, why he's been left on his own. He takes a certain course of action which sort of changes him and changes her and changes their life together. It's a remarkably accomplished film for a first-time director. It's a two-hander, and there are other characters in it, but really it's all about Paddy Considine and Jodie Whittaker, and their performances are superb. And it's good to see actors, especially these days, we're used to actors being in action films and playing superheroes and all these parts, which aren't massively stretching for actors. And to see good actors getting stuck into good roles with good dialogue and sort of ordinary situations, if you like, it's quite refreshing in a way. It's a very good film, very powerful film. It is quite bleak in places. I'm not going to spoil the ending in case you haven't seen it yet, but it's sort of, it's a satisfying ending, I would say, for what's a very good film. Yeah, it's not the normal sort of film I talk about on this channel, I appreciate that, but as I said, it was one that I picked up and wanted to see, and it was recommended by a fellow YouTuber, so I thought I'd give it a little look, and I said it fitted that time frame I had yesterday, a couple of hours free before I went out in the evening. So highly recommend it if you want something gritty, which deals with an important issue about mental health and disability and injury, illness, those sorts of things, and how the people who live with people who suffer these things, the stresses that they have to put up with, and the things that they go through, often without support. And I think it is often the case that families and friends do turn their back on people. They don't want to face the truth that the person that they knew and loved has changed irrevocably, it might seem. So I highly recommend it. It's not a film you're going to say, I had a blast watching this film, but it's a thought-provoking film. It's thoughtful, very emotional, beautiful performances from Considine and Whittaker. You know, I know she came in for a lot of flack in Doctor Who, but I've always thought she's a good actress. She has a certain dynamic and effervescence about her, which is slightly dimmed here, obviously, because it's not that sort of role, but it's very much Jodie Whittaker acting very well, and Paddy Considine is always good value. So if it's something that's on your radar that you'd like to see, it may well be on a streaming service, I don't know. I picked up the Blu-ray, as I said, for a few quid on, I think it was HMV or Zavvi, one of these recently. And it's well worth a look if you want a very human drama instead of lots of robots and monsters and aliens and superheroes beating 7 shades of shit out of each other, frankly. That's Journeyman, which, as I say, goes back to 2017. It's available now. Right, thank you for watching. I'm going to give it, by the way, I'm going to give it a good 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, a good, solid, British, low budget, but very accomplished drama. Right, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this slightly unusual World of Stuff video. I'll be back soon with more stuff. Probably with monsters and aliens and superheroes and creatures beating hell out of each other. And when I do, until I do, like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. And keep checking the stuff. Bye now.